I think Intuit and probably credit scores are probably two of the biggest threads that everything kind of connects to, more or less. Um, and so Intuit, as you know, like they own QuickBooks, they own TurboTax, they own what do you call
Oh,
Mint.com. They recently
Mint, yep.
bought Credit Karma.
Credit.
Credit Karma, yeah. So quite the portfolio of applications, I would say. QuickBooks is probably used by, I would imagine, the vast majority of accountants in America, probably. And TurboTax probably used by a vast majority of Americans to file their taxes. Um, and you've just got this right up here. So they share payroll data from Intuit to Equifax, which does credit reporting. Um, and so we were talking about this the other day. So certain employers will do credit checks on employees when they hire them, right? And in some sense, it might make sense. Maybe you're in a highly regulated industry, maybe banking, finance, stuff like that. It might be required. But then there's certain industries where it's completely crazy that they would even care, like a normal employer would care about credit checks and stuff like that. But I mean, and you didn't really agree to having your payroll data shared, and it got shared, and there's nothing you can really do about it, I guess, is the bottom line, right?
Yeah, there are. If you zoom out and look at, let's say, something like Equifax or some of these credit report agencies, they have a lot of data about it, like the credit scores is being one. They also have a lot of data about your spending thing, how many credit cards you have, how much loans you have, and whatnot. So they have the spend side of the equation. What they're trying to get is the income side of the equation. So now Intuit is sharing that data to these vendors, and looks like ADP already sends that data to them. So now they have this data as a service. It is one thing when a government does it, but it's the other thing when there's a private company who has income data as well as some of the money in and money out of every single citizen, almost every single citizen in the country. And especially if the track record says they've I would say leaked about 145 million people's data more recently. And now they are aggregating income data, launching income verification service, payroll or verification service. What could go wrong?
I mean, the Equifax thing is crazy because these guys, like you said, they leaked the data, and then there might have been like half of a news cycle on it, but nobody cared. I think the total fine ended up being something like 500, maybe 700 million, which I think I remember filling out like the join the class action or whatever, and I think it was saying that the payout would be maybe $7 to $13 or something along those lines. And so you get fined 700 million or 500 million, whatever, and their revenue is something like 5 billion, 4 billion, give or take, right? I mean, that's like pennies really in the bucket in the grand scheme of things, right? And you don't sign up for a credit checking service, but Equifax automatically collects this entire thing for you. And we all just kind of live with this credit check system, and nobody, I mean, I think people don't like it, but you don't really have a choice. And you never opted into them collecting information about you. You never signed up for their service, yet they control pretty much how you can plan your investments, if you can get a house, if you can get a credit card, if you can sometimes get a job, if you can rent a place. And you had zero control, or a lot of people, zero interaction ever with the credit companies, right? You just think that there's a magical number out there that gets calculated and basically judges your credit worthiness with zero opt-in of data, but they somehow collected everything about you, right?
No, absolutely. And I mean, that is one side of the story, which is, Equifax and whatnot. And then there is the other side of the story where, this month, I believe Intuit was in the news where sharing that data, payroll data with, and ADP does that, right? If you look at that side of the equation, it goes back to how do they get that information? They get the information because they offer a payroll tool, right? So again, it goes back to tool and data. So they sell you payroll tool, and they take the data and then they sell the payroll data. In this case,
you're paying for the payroll tool. Yeah,
you're paying for the tool, and then they're making money off of the data as well. You're really paying them to screw you. That's another way to put it, because you're giving them, paying, and also giving them and also getting screwed because of of some of these business models, and those business models are very prevalent in the industry, unfortunately. In fact, interestingly, we were looking at payroll provider for one of our other offices in a different country, and that was the time this one came up. And we did not realize that, in fact, ADP was on the short list. We did not realize that the data is sent out. We took it off the list and said, and as an employer, we basically say, these are the things that we have to do. And now that is part of a checklist. Our data for our employees and their payroll data should not be sold. If it is, that vendor is out. I think businesses should add something like this to their checklist when they evaluate vendors. Where is the data leaking? Secondly, the employees should basically make sure that, or ask what's happening with their data, and they should question the employer about it. An employer should have the right answer for that. So once these two checks are in place, everything else down the lane will be taken care of. That's where that education is needed for both the employers as well as employees.